A mother's last. Goodbye. Whitney Decker stood at the edge of her gravel driveway, arms loosely crossed, her thumb nervously rubbing the edge of her sleeve. The evening sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that stretched across the cul-de-sac, where her three daughters clambered into the back seat of their father's weathered pickup truck. Laughter bounced in the air. Paityn, 9, scolding her younger sisters for not buckling fast enough. Evelyn, 8, tugging at the stuffed bunny that Olivia, 5, insisted needed a seatbelt of its own. It was a routine they had grown used to, even if it never got easier. Since the divorce, Travis had been granted visitation every other weekend. Sometimes he missed it, citing work or car trouble, but not this time. He had arrived on time. He even stayed for 15 minutes, standing by the truck with his hands deep in his hoodie pockets, chatting about mundane things. The truck's latest repairs, how the neighbor's dog barked too much, and whether Whitney could keep his dog for the summer. He seemed tired, she later recalled. Not angry, not desperate, just drained. Travis smiled faintly as the girls waved goodbye through the dusty window, the kind of half-smile that said, "I'm trying, but I'm not really here." Whitney watched the truck pull away, the taillights blinking as it turned the corner. She exhaled and walked back inside. She never saw her daughters alive again. The growing concern. By late Friday night, Whitney's concern began to stir. The girls should have been home. At first, she rationalized it. Maybe they stopped for dinner, or Travis was letting them stay a bit longer as a surprise. But when midnight passed and her texts remained unread, her worry deepened into dread. She called his phone. No answer. She called again, straight to voicemail. By Saturday morning, she couldn't ignore the voice screaming in her head. She paced the living room floor, staring out the window, jumping at every sound outside. She called the police. The response was chilling in its calm. "It's too early to issue an Amber Alert," they told her. "He has visitation rights. There's no reason to believe the children are in danger." But Whitney knew. Something wasn't right. Her lawyer, Ariana Cozart, began to press harder, demanding a welfare check, flagging court orders, pushing for urgency. The police hesitated, bogged down by red tape and assumptions. Then the calls started coming in. A co-worker of Travis's mentioned he'd been off for weeks. "He looked like he was dragging around a ghost," the man said, "like something was following him." Bin Nguyen, their next-door neighbor, sent a chilling text. "He was weird that day, Whitney. Quiet, kept asking if I was okay. Repeated it like he couldn't hear the answer, like he needed me to say something specific." The fear that had been scratching inside her chest now roared. The discovery. On Monday morning, the illusion shattered. A group of hikers near a remote campsite in Leavenworth, Washington, reported an abandoned site, strange, silent, with children's belongings strewn about. Deputies arrived. What they found sent shockwaves across the nation. 3 small bodies wrapped in plastic, zip ties, empty snack wrappers, children's shoes still neatly paired, like they had taken them off before climbing into sleeping bags. Paityn, Evelyn, Olivia. 3 vibrant young girls. 3 stolen lives. No longer missing, just gone. Whitney's screams, neighbors later said, echoed through the walls like a banshee's wail. She collapsed, unable to stand, choking on grief that felt like drowning. Friends who tried to comfort her said her eyes changed that day, went hollow like the light inside her had dimmed permanently. And Travis Decker? Gone. The search and the manhunt. In the days that followed, investigators began piecing together the months that led to this horror. Search history on Travis's devices showed a man unraveling. How to disappear in the forest. How to cross into Canada undetected. best trails in Wenatchee Wilderness. He had mapped out parts of the Pacific Crest Trail, one of the most remote and rugged footpaths in the country. He had also looked up painless ways to die. This was not a crime of passion. It was planned, methodical, and heartbreaking. But Whitney didn't see Travis as a monster, not entirely. She knew he had suffered long before their marriage crumbled. He had served in the military, deployed multiple times, and returned home fragmented. PTSD, borderline personality disorder, night terrors, emotional detachment. There were nights when he would sit on the floor in the dark, rocking, whispering apologies to no one. "I begged him to get help," Whitney said. But the VA waiting list was 6 months, then a year, and then he stopped trying. He slipped through the cracks, and so did their daughters. The community responds. The town of Wenatchee, stunned and grieving, rallied around Whitney. A $20,000 reward was offered for information. Search teams with dogs, drones, helicopters, and infrared scopes swept through thousands of acres of national forest. Posters went up across Washington and into Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. The manhunt turned national. Travis Decker, once a decorated soldier, now labeled armed and dangerous. Still, no sign. Meanwhile, the town built a shrine in Memorial Park, 3 white crosses, hundreds of candles, teddy bears, chalk drawings, and handwritten notes. "Paityn, you always smiled at me at recess. Evelyn, you were so smart and funny. Olivia, I will miss holding your hand." Whitney, unable to stay in her home, moved into a small cabin lent by a family friend. Surrounded by relatives, neighbors, and even some of Travis's own anguished family members, she began channeling her grief into something bigger. "I can't save my babies," she said, "but maybe I can save someone else's." A fight for change, Whitney launched the Decker Task Force within 2 weeks. She met with mental health professionals, veterans advocates, lawmakers, and CPS workers. The mission was clear: to create a system that listened sooner, responded faster, and provided real help, not forms and waiting lines. She proposed reforms in how custody visits are monitored when mental health concerns are raised. She spoke before the Washington State Senate Committee on Emergency Intervention Protocols. She stood at candlelight vigils and told her story without shame, without malice, only resolve. "I don't want vengeance," she said. "I want prevention." A mother's final words. As of June 2025, Travis Decker is still missing. Authorities believe he is either deep within the national forest or has fled the country. Some speculate he may have taken his own life. Others fear he may re-emerge, dangerous and unstable. But Whitney no longer watches the news with clenched fists. She knows the worst has already happened. Now she fights not for justice in a courtroom, but in policy, in awareness, in change. "He was their dad," she said in a recent interview. "He taught them how to ride bikes. He kissed their scraped knees. He tucked them in every night he could." Her voice cracked, but she didn't cry. And still, he killed them. If that doesn't show you how badly someone can break, then nothing will. In memory, Paityn loved horses and wore purple rain boots, even in summer. Evelyn wanted to be a scientist and kept a notebook of tree leaves. Olivia couldn't sleep without her bunny and called everyone my best friend. Their light endures, not in candles, but in action. In a mother's war against silence, in every life saved because someone spoke up, someone listened, someone changed course.